Welcome to AuthCrunch Solution Tech Talks. Today we'll be speaking about the removal of roles from the tokens issued by the authentication portal. For your reference, you can find the content related to the topic by browsing to the docs.authcrunch.com and searching for the solution ID on the screen. Here is our agenda for today. First, we'll review solution architecture diagram for controlling the roles issued by authentication portal to users. We'll also learn about X-header injection by the authorization gateway. I will introduce you to the new action in user transforms called drop match role action. Together we'll review a sample configuration. Finally, I will show you the end-to-end demonstration of authentication and authorization flow with and without that feature enabled. Let us begin. My environment consists of two services: Authentication Portal in the form of Authenticate plugin that is being served from auth.fiasgateway.com, and the application called AssetQ, which is protected by the authorization gateway in the form of Authorize plugin. The application is being hosted from assetq.fiasgateway.com. I'm using Respond plugin to simulate the application. First, a user authenticates with the portal and receives a token issued by the portal. Second, the user connects to the application and passes the token along. The authorization gateway checks the token's validity and, if valid, passes the request to the application through. Importantly, the authorization server looks at the content of the token, finds user roles, and passes them in the form of X headers to the application. This is done so that the application doesn't have to parse the token itself and is able to use the information passed by the authorization server in the X headers to make decisions. Recently, a user reached out and reported the following problem. It is related to user roles and X header injection. One part of the puzzle are the roles. The identity provider was passing lots of roles to the authentication portal. These roles are ending up in the token issued by the portal. Specifically, as seen on the left side, some of the roles have a space in them, for example, domain users and domain admins. This portion happens on the authentication portal. The other part of the puzzle is X-header injection. The X-header injection takes place on the authorization gateway inside authorization policy via inject headers with claims directive, seen on the right. The directive instructs Authorize plugin to read claims from the token issued by the authentication portal, parse them, and inject the parsed claims into the HTTP request with X headers. As I said, this portion happens on the authorization gateway prior to a request reaching an application. The X headers in the HTTP request may look the following way. Currently, because of the white spaces, it is unclear where a role starts and where it ends. For example, one can assume there is a role called domain. Preliminary, the user who reached out suggested replacing white spaces in the roles with a special sign, for example, plus sign. After deliberating, I decided to implement a feature to remove non-compliant roles from the token altogether. That is how action drop match role was born. It is an instruction inside the user transform that removes a role from a token if it matches a pattern. In the first instance, I match any role that have white space in it. The second instance is very interesting. User transforms can work with regular expressions. However, the regular expression implementation is Golang regex, which does not support something called negative lookahead. So, the non-regex match any means match anything that does not match this regular expression. Say I logged in and went to Who Am I endpoint by clicking My Identity link. The token was issued by the authentication portal with a configuration where the user transform was not applied. The token has 4 roles. When X-header injection is enabled, you will see the following headers when a request arrives to an application. Notice the white spaces in the X token user roles X header. Now, Let's walk through the configuration for the solution. This is a Caddy file for the solution. You can find this in docs.authcrunch.com. So let's start with the configuration. So first two lines here, they're related to the port that the server is running on. I also enabled debug on the server, and here's the configuration for the security app. So now I can click and expand it, close it. So we have identity store, which is a local database. I store users in this file, and what I do here is I define two local users. One that we will focus on is user J Smith. J Smith has the following three roles: domain users, domain admins, auth admin. Then we'll go to the configuration of authentication portal itself, and here we'll have our first transform. So on lines 38 to 43, when someone comes in and logs in with valid credentials from the local database, we'll add the role of user, and then we'll add a few links to the authentication portal itself. So one link is to the portal settings, and then another link to asset queue application. Now here I have two transforms, 44, 45, 46, 47, those lines, and this is a white space match. And here we have another transform which says only allow auth admin and auth user roles, and everything else will be dropped from the token. I can disable the transforms, or I can enable them, however I choose. And then we go in and we look at the authorization policy. Authorization policy is basically standard. We have an ACL rule that allows all admins to come in, and everyone else will be denied, and it will be the interaction will be logged. And we do inject headers with claims over here. Now I have we finished with the security aspect, and then I have two endpoints. One endpoint for my auth instance, and another one for asset queue. In the first case here, what this endpoint does, it serves the authentication portal with Authenticate plugin. In the second instance, I have a default route. Basically, everything that comes into the request, unless it's a version, right? Everything will fall into this default route, which my request will be authorized with asset queue policy above. Then I have a trace plugin that basically will add the extra login to say this log came from this particular endpoint, and it will have tag tshoot. This way I will be able to quickly find the logs that's relevant to me. And then there is a response plugin. A response plugin mimics application. So this is what you will see here is something called placeholder. Not a lot of people know about this feature, but the idea is that you can use placeholders such as HTTP request host, which when you go to a web server will respond with the host name that you use to access the web server. Then there will be time, and it will return time. Then we'll have a user ID, and that's a placeholder, HTTP auth user ID, and that will return your user ID, and then roles will return the roles that you have. So these placeholders is kind of like internal thing to the Caddy, not really directly related to the plugin, but authorized plugin fills those placeholders on the request arriving. Next, I'm going to demonstrate the authentication flow. All right, I started the web server, and I commented out all the user transforms, so we don't have the action drop match roles applied over here. So we'll go into the portal, we'll click, we'll put in username J Smith, we'll provide the password, and we will authenticate. Here is my portal, so there's my identity link, and there's a portal settings and asset queue. So when we go to my identity, you will see that I have the 4 roles. We'll go back to the portal and let's go to asset queue. So we went to asset queue. As you can see from the respond configuration over here, we have host, time, ID, and roles. That's exactly what you see here. Note that the ID is the email address from the token, and that could be changed. There's another directive to do that. I probably will do a video on this. And then we'll have our roles: domain users, domain admins, auth-p admin, auth-p user. So our goal is to remove domain admins over here and leave only auth-p admin users. So let's do that. We go back to the configuration and let's re-enable user transform to allow only auth-p admin users in. So we'll go in, we'll stop the server, we'll start it again, and let's go there. So I will go to auth portal again, jsmith, authenticating, enter. Let's go to asset queue, and now we see that you only have auth-p admin and auth-p user in user roles that are being passed as X headers to an application. If you enjoyed this project and found it helpful, I would really appreciate it if you could start it on GitHub. This shows your support and helps others discover it. Hit that like button. Let me know you enjoyed the video content. I spent several days drafting and recording it. Subscribe to AuthCrunch YouTube channel for more content like this in the future. Connect with me on LinkedIn. I would love to hear your success stories using this project and know more about you. Love you all, and thank you for your support.